Excess. Noun. An amount of something that is more than desirable, permitted, or necessary. Excess. 6 letters, 2 syllables. Yet the small combination of vowels and consonants more and more comes to define the American culture, while other civilizations struggle to reach what we take for granted every day. But we know this. You've seen this before. Generous people going to places of need, giving out of the kindness of their hearts, and sharing a helping hand.
There are humans, even complete civilizations, that constantly struggle for survival. Many Americans have the luxury and the lack of conscience to throw away food, wasting resources that other people could only dream of having. We interviewed Will Pardon, a missionary for Go Ministries, about the differences in America and the Dominican Republic on the subject.
I think in the beginning, when 8 years ago when we moved to the Dominican, we struggled with coming back to the States because there was a little bit of anger with the way that we grew up and seeing how us as Americans are wasteful with food and other things that we have. But over the years, I think one of the things that we've been able to understand and learn is just to be better stewards of the things that we have here in America because we have been blessed with those things, and now it's been put in our hands to decide what to do with. So I think a lot of times, me growing up, times that I wasted food or I was picky about what I ate or I threw away things that other people would see as super valuable. Going down to the Dominican and seeing that there are kids and families that don't have food, that don't have things that we take advantage of every single day or take for granted. I think that just our perspective has changed. We just understood that we need to be better stewards of what we have. And it's still hard to see, but knowing that I grew up here and that's what, I didn't know any better until I left the country. I think it's important for people to be able to see how the majority of the rest of the world lives so that your perspective can change. And I think what happens is you just become less wasteful.
So how much do we really consume?
I would estimate that I have, around 300 pairs of shoes. It's probably a down payment on a house.
I'm Callie, and I'm the Cajun couponer.
Coupon scavenging is paid off, resulting in a 3,500 item stockpile that includes 160 bars of soap, 500 razors, and 1,500 bottled beverages.
While not every American consumes as much as these two ladies, excess is an epidemic in our country unlike any other. For example, the average American office worker uses about 500 disposable cups every year. This, along with America's paper and plastic forks, spoons, and knives, is enough material to circle the equator 300 times. To put it in perspective globally, the average American consumes as much as 2 Japanese, 6 Mexicans, 13 Chinese, 47 Indians, 90 Bangladeshians, and 317 Ethiopians. When it comes to excess, we're number 1.
Amy Inskeep is a cafeteria worker at North Oldham High School. We asked her opinions of the food waste during student lunch
Does it bother you
periods.
when you see students throw away half-eaten apples and unfinished food all the time? I mean,
It's not just unfinished, it's whole lunches that have been lovingly prepared, beautiful fresh fruits, sandwiches, expensive stuff. It's not just that, it's the food that's thrown away in the preparation area as well. If it's not sold, it's pitched. And it's not just people who could be eating it, it's food that hasn't been tampered with. But there's a animal farm, Henry's Ark, nearby that relies on donations, and that's what I always think about. I mean, they wouldn't care if the bananas are smashed or the apples are bruised. I mean, the food could feed animals and people, and yes, it breaks my heart. There's an awful lot of food that's thrown away. Just today, seaweed, this dried seaweed that you can find at Trader Joe's, it's very expensive. People were throwing away the whole bags of this stuff. It's just, I don't know if the kids don't get it, that this stuff costs money or don't care. It blows my mind. I'm a broken record at home about it, so.
So there's nothing that we do with the food that we can't use, like the food that's already been set out. We don't donate it at all, or.
We decided to see for ourselves what kind of trash North Oldham produces. All we had to do was follow the trail.
Unused wraps, I guess, for chicken, Capri Sun.
Does it still have Capri Suns in there?
No, actually, it's just the cardboard box.
Okay, that's always good.
Yeah, lots and lots of trash.
Zoom in on the Goose Creek Diner, a local restaurant in Louisville. It's a homey place, comfort food, families, friendly staff, senior citizens. On Sundays, there's a brunch buffet. The diner prides itself on cornbread muffins, voted the best in town. Most of the time, the server brings a basket of cornbread to the table with the meal, and refills it as many times as requested. Like most restaurants, the diner must dispose of all food that has been to the table once the customer is finished, regardless of the amount left on the plate. I heard the servers complain about the food left on the tables in their section. Cornbread, sauces, even whole meals. They said the amount of food we throw away could feed a third world country. This is
I've
Deborah.
heard from a lot of the servers that there's a lot of food waste here, and you once mentioned to me that there's enough food here probably to feed a third world country at the end of the day. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
It kind of repulses me. Just I worked at a place before, a little pizza place, and like at the end of the night we'd have like 10, 12, 13 pizzas left over, and the owner would make us throw them away. We were right there on 4th Street, and 20 homeless are sitting outside of the restaurant hungry, and I'm having to throw food away. And the diner does that as well. And I find it horrible. Why can't we donate to Kentucky Harvest? It just takes a few extra minutes a day to wrap the stuff the way Kentucky Harvest wants it, and we just toss it because it's easier. Don't like it.
Diamond's another server at the diner.
So tell me a little bit about the food waste that you see usually when you're busting your tables and the whole...
We do have a lot of food waste. I say most of it will be the sauces that people waste, like gravy or anything. Like once they get real full, they'll waste a lot. I think we waste a lot of food here more than they eat. Yeah. So.
I remember Miss Pam was talking about how the corn muffins often get waste. Is that...
Yeah, because sometimes they can be hard. Most people don't like hard stuff, and I know they're kind of sweet. Yeah. So we don't really like that much sweet stuff here, I guess, so they throw away a lot of our corn muffins.
Is there any leftover stuff in the kitchen that they can't use that they just toss too?
Normally when we have our Sunday brunch, we have a lot of things that most of our employees can take home. Nothing that customers can take home though, but we try not to waste a lot of things, but we try not to keep a lot of things as well. We want most of our stuff to be fresh. Yeah.
We sat down to a meal at Goose Creek. As expected, they presented us with an abundance of cornbread and comfort food. The portions weren't enormous, like, say, the Cheesecake Factory, but they were large enough to garner leftovers. They brought us enough butter with our cornbread for Maddie and Sam to play checkers. After 4 baskets of cornbread, a burger, pasta, salad, and classic favorites like the Kentucky Hot Brown, we were stuffed.
Weak for yourself, my man, you'll never be what is in your heart.
Where does all this waste end up?
Right down the street from our school is a nationally ranked landmark. You have the privilege to see it more often than most. It's the Ohio River, the most polluted river in the United States.
Here we are maybe 20, 30 feet from the Ohio River. This is on Riverside Drive, about 5 minutes down the hill from North Oldham High School and literally my backyard. Walking around down here a few days ago, I looked under my new deck, and this is what I found. Trash everywhere. The infamous plastic bottle, old newspapers, the back of an old shoe. Essentially a giant pile of trash.
Our nation's pollution problems aren't just in isolated, middle-of-nowhere wastelands. It's in our backyards, our streets, and parks. This is Jake.
You can tell when the honeysuckle's ripe because the stems get really long, but these are really short.
A senior at Atherton High School in Louisville, Kentucky, and an avid nature lover. He spends a lot of his time in Joe Creason Park, climbing trees, hiking the trails, just enjoying nature at its finest. Then one day he found something that couldn't be ignored.
Like, what all did you find in the creek?
You found condom wrappers, lubricants, hypodermic needles.
Ew.
Some pretty gross stuff. We also found an airway light bulb that looks pretty cool.
Wow.
I don't know how it got there. Well, there's a major road pretty close to here, and people throw their cigarette butts and their bottles of water and their cans out the window, not even thinking about where it's going to end up. But as soon as it rains, it all washes straight into this creek.
Wow. Here we go, just up the river, or creek rather. It's nice and pristine for the most part.
Even when we get this dam cleared up, our job will be nowhere close to being complete, because if you look up and down the river, there's still tons of trash that will always be there, and we just gotta get rid of it.
The damn trash?
The damn trash. We've actually fallen into this, and because of this trash, the water behind it stagnates, and you just get all this disgusting stuff like decomposing organic matter, like the pollen that falls in. Also, sewage runoff stagnates in here. So when we fell in, we were honestly scared that we were going to get pink eye because of how disgusting the water was.
That's really gross.
Yeah. Just picking up trash where you see it. Just make sure the trash you create goes where it needs to go.
Right.
Put it in the proper receptacles, put the recyclables where the recyclables go, and the trash where the trash needs to go.
Right. What other tips do you have for, like, conservation and stopping waste and pollution?
There's just the 3 R's. You need to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Make sure your plastic consumption is at a minimum. Make sure you reuse grocery bags. Get the reusable totes that you can use at Kroger, and just
be aware.
Make sure you're not buying too many bottles of water, because that's where they end up. They end up in landfills, or they end up in the ocean. Are you ready?
Yeah. So, how do you think this dam of trash formed? Like, what's causing it to form right there?
Well, when trees fall over and they stop the trash from flowing down the river, they just build up and stagnate. So we're just gonna have to go, just after the trash is all up, we're just gonna have to get in the water and break apart the trees.
Right, I see. And if it weren't for the trees that had fallen, where would it all run off to?
It would go from this Beargrass Creek, it would go from Beargrass Creek to the Ohio River, from the Ohio River to the Mississippi, and from the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico, and then end up in the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow, so it's got this really small dam of trash right here in our hometown. Actually, it could very well have a global effect.
Very much so, and it all adds up to the Gulf of Mexico being one of the worst environments for marine life. It's a dead zone where animal and plant life cannot flourish, and all that trash is accidentally ingested by sea turtles. Loggerhead sea turtles are very prominent in the Gulf, and dolphins, and all the cute animals that you wouldn't want bad things to happen to. It's all directly affecting them.
For far too long, man has likened himself to a parasitic plague of the earth, consuming its resources endlessly, destroying its vastness to make more room for himself, and contaminating it with his waste and pollution. Sometimes in this world of waste, these problems seem too big to solve alone, the obstacles too overwhelming to overcome. But this need not be so. You might be wondering what you can do.
Volunteer. Contact your local congressman. Don't buy more than you need. Start a recycling drive. Reduce, reuse, and recycle.
A naturalist, Theodore Roosevelt, once said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." If we exceed this expectation, we need no longer live in excess.
Cold is the water, it freezes, you're already.
Where does all this waste end up?